Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be discussing the Netgear Orbi AX4200 mesh router, coming in at a whopping $300, which is kind of a lot, but normally it's 500, so 300 is still okay, but it is currently at 249 on Amazon. I wanted to create a detailed review of my experience over the last 3 months and provide some perspective if you're in the market for one as well. Let me first set the stage of the scenario, what I needed it for, and why I went with the Orbi. Two simple changes. I moved into a two-story home versus a two-bedroom apartment, and I recently switched from cable internet to 1 GB per second upload and download via fiber. That's all the background you really need, and it tends to be the reason why most of us end up buying a new router. A, we have a larger area to cover, or B, Wi-Fi speeds increase. I had both, so it was obvious and that something needed to change essentially. I had a fairly decent router before switching, but more on that later when we get into the not so great part about the video. For now, let's talk about what's in the box. For starters, we get one Orbi router, one Orbi satellite to increase signal from the main router and act as a just as capable access point for the Wi-Fi connection and LAN connection. One Ethernet cable to run from the modem to the main router, two 12-volt power adapters, and a quick start guide. I found the packaging to be quite nice and honestly really enjoy the simplistic design of the Orbi. Wish it was a little bit smaller, but if it needs more space, I'll take that over subpar performance. Let's move into some of the highlights and some of the reasons why you should feel comfortable with your current or future purchase of this device. First thing you will notice right away is the range and the lack of dead spots in the home. I have walked around my entire home, went to the basement, all bedrooms, the garage, and even our sunroom where we would notoriously lose signal. Each returned a strong and solid connection. I can't praise it enough for just consistency this router provides. If something is wrong, it's more than likely a provider because this thing just never breaks or drops anything. What contributes to this consistency is a second tri-band signal built in that only the router and satellite uses to keep that connection strong and unwavering. This back-end technology is a godsend and really sets the device and frankly many other mesh routers apart from the standard routers. The seamless switch between the router and the satellite when moving around with the device cannot be understated, as I have the main router in my office on the second floor with the satellite in the living room on the first floor. I also must mention that the software used to determine what devices are prioritized does a really good job most of the time. The Orbi was not my first mesh router purchased. I actually tried quite a few. I tried the TP-Link Deco as well as the provider router by our service provider, but both fell short where the Orbi did not. When it comes to service provider router, it did not have the range necessary nor the speed that I received consistently from the Orbi. The TP-Link came very close and had an overall larger bandwidth capacity, so if people with larger homes may want to check that one out. But unfortunately, it did not work with my security system cameras. Orbi did, and this was that. So basically, I went with Orbi. But before I continue, I don't want to make it seem like these were bad devices that I had previously because they still offer better features than the Orbi in areas which we talk about. But overall, ease of use and necessary function, Orbi hit the mark. Another strong advantage the Orbi has is the ability to Dixie chain two LAN ports to receive a 2 GB per second connection versus the capped 1 GB per second for each LAN. This allows me to continue to use the router as the connection speeds become faster and fiber speeds over 1 GB become normal, but the average Joe, and myself included, 1 GB is more than enough. But it's nice to know you have the capability, especially when most mesh routers don't offer this function. All right, so with all this praise out the way, let's get into the not so great part of the show. One of the biggest issues I have with this device is the very, very, very limited app. Every mesh router or company has their own app, and by far this would be the one I consider the Apple of all apps. It just makes sense. I compare it to Apple. It's so simple and limited that your kids could figure it out in minutes. Even though I feel as if the Orbi router does a fantastic job of prioritizing devices and making sure when I'm downloading something that the download speeds are strong, I still would like to have the same manual control over this. They just don't allow it. You can't separate your devices you want on the 2.4 gigahertz versus 5 gigahertz because it's automated. You can't even create another SSID to provide to like further separate the cameras, Google Homes from your normal network. These are simple features I used to have with my very cheap Linksys router that I just don't have now. So I will let you use your imagination on what else is missing. The good thing is if you don't have much technical prowess and don't care to do any of this stuff, the router is designed to handle it for you. But I don't know anyone in the history of ever who like being told that they just can't do something. I wish it would just be an option for you to be able to do something. But it's basically no when it comes to customization. One last thing would be that I don't get my full speeds over the Wi-Fi connection. The best is about 400 to 600, which I honestly expected. None of the other ones did either. So be aware that your mileage may vary, but one thing for sure, it will always be consistent. All right, so let's see. We talked about the problems it created in a not so functional app. Let's sprinkle in some solutions it has provided for problems that I didn't know I had. So, as a huge gamer, and this is a gaming focused channel, I use features like Steam Link to stream PC games on the Xbox Series X, PS5, the debunked Google Stadia as of now, on the Switch. So I download games often and need speeds that work well with these programs. The one thing I could never figure out is why my Xbox would begin really strong downloading the game and just stop randomly. I would just forget about it and just come back later and it still be downloading when the estimated time would say only 20 minutes. Some say it was packet lost or whatever, but nothing helped. I no longer have this issue. It used to take me a very long time to connect and wake my security cameras and Google doorbell camera. I no longer have that issue. I used to buffer on videos even with fiber. I no longer have this issue. Is that consistency starting to show? The things upgraded all of my devices and connectivity overnight, and that's all thanks to the mesh router. So if you still have a standard 1 point router, it's a no-brainer, but if you want consistency like no other, this is the one for you. And again, to that being said, 250 is a hefty price, but I do think you are getting your money's worth. But that's pretty much it. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. And if you have any comments or thoughts, leave that in the comment section below. But as always, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.